This podcast is brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a landing page, a beautiful gallery, a professional blog, or an online store, it's all included with your Squarespace website. I almost said the name wrong. Squarespace. But you knew what it was. You've already heard me. You've heard me do this. Anyways, start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter the offer code KINDOFFUNNY to get 10% off your first purchase. Squarespace. Set your website apart. And also remember it's called Squarespace, not Squashspace or Squashspace or whatever I was about to say. But if you want to use Squarespace to start squashface.com, I'll be your first sub. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the GameOvergreggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the Reverend Jared Petty. Hey, Jared, how are you? I'm so used to reaching over and have Nick Scarpino here with his ice cream scoops and his heather gray shirts. You threw me for a loop here in your blue polo.
I am not a producer nor a seducer. I'm merely but I'm thrilled to be here. I have wanted to be on the show since you began this noble endeavor those many decades ago, and now at last, here to join you on Game
Reverend Jared Petty.
Yep, very happy.
IGN.com zone.
Yes, indeed.
We have something new to talk about, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yeah.
Over here at the Pride of Long Island, Colin Moriarty.
It's good to be with you today.
It's good to be here with you.
This is like time warp, Colin. This is great. I forgot to bring this up on Gamescast because we recorded that a second ago. But like you without the beard and the hair, I'm like, whoa. I saw a picture of you with Aaron, and that it confused me because I didn't read the caption because I don't like to read. And I was just like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell is this? I thought it was an old picture. I'm like, oh.
But it's a new picture.
It's a new old picture.
Did you weave a cocoon and then come out? Like
I did. I actually just went to a barber for the first time since 2008.
Okay.
Did you have them do the beard too?
Yeah.
Man, I've never done it. Never done it. I don't trust Supercuts to do that. So
I didn't go to Supercuts.
I'd have to go to some fancy shit.
I went to a place called Metropolitan Barbershop, which was like very highly recommended. It was expensive, but it was, I'm not going to do it all the time.
How much is expensive?
It was $50 with tip for them to shave my head and shave my beard, which is a lot of money.
Yeah,
sure. For context, I was making the guy laugh. I'm like, I bought a $20 buzzer in early 2008 at Target, and I've been using it ever since. And I've shaved my own head every single time. And it's not like a miraculous haircut, but I'm paying probably a dime a haircut at this point.
Yeah, at this point. Yeah, I can't get a clean, even shave when I do it myself. Actually, my hair looks awful right now anyway. But I salute you going to a quality barber because I have been a victim of beard homicide. It's happened. Gosh. I went to a barber once who made unsolicited changes in my beard pattern.
Oh my God, that's scary.
And they were severe. And honestly, it was.
He gave you those panini lines?
He tried to give me the chin strap without asking, and he got well into it before. It's like, what are you doing? And it was a sad moment. And I had about 6 weeks where if you watch it on IGN, every video, I've got my hand like this because this isn't exactly a striking profile. Look at the Pillsbury Doughboy anyway, but just having it up here looked so weird. But worse, I've had my beard since I was 18 years old. I have never shaved it off. Wow. And I could feel parts of my face down there that I had not felt, and it was just not okay.
Ugh.
Yeah, I basically told him, he's like, well, what do you usually do? I'm like, I usually do like 3/8 inch or a quarter of an inch. And I'm like, but I usually shave it. I used to shave it really short. I'm like, just do whatever you want. And he asked me a few questions, and then I was like, have at it.
Go for it.
And it'll all grow. It's hair. It'll grow back. But I like it. I'm not gonna maintain it. This just gives me more time until I have to shave my head again.
Sure.
But I wanted to try it once. Treat myself to something nice.
Treat
the
yourself.
nice little shave with the cream on the back of the neck.
They use a straight razor. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That was very nice. It was like I was laughing. I'm like, it's so unusual to have anyone else using a buzzer on my hair. Like really, you buzz my neck, but
come on, don't insult me in my. I mean, I know I'm not an artist over here.
You play a role.
Did they do the hot towel? Did they do the hot towel?
No, they didn't.
Oh, the hot towel's so good.
Yeah, some nice aftershave on the neck, and just a good buzzer, not a buzzer that's like pulling out half of your hair as you're because it's getting stuck because you haven't oiled it in years. And
I want to say shout out to the Gregs of the world though, because there is a very special something when you shave your own head of having that guy that finishes the job, because no one can see back there. No. There's not a mere contraption in the world that can perfectly allow you to shave the back of your
It's
head.
true that when I was younger, I used
Bunch
to
of mirrors
actually
in like a hexagon.
I used to do it. I used to do it by myself, and I have done it by myself, and I think I've done okay. But you just never really know.
It never looks like this.
No. Oh no. But it never looks like this when he does it either.
Greg can do it. I give him credit.
Over there, the pure one, Tim Gettys.
Let Tim host.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather around this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you can get each and every episode early, along with a whole bunch of goodies and exclusives and early access and exclusive access and all sorts of pictures and things like that. Also, Amy Gill's over there. If you don't have any bucks to toss our way, though, on patreon.com/kindafunny, head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we post the show topic by topic, day by day, the following week, before the entire thing is up for free as one big video in MP3 the following Friday.
I'm going to hijack this real quick before we go any further. Just wanted to say that a woman named Lindsay McKean reached out to me and asked us to wish her boyfriend, Adam Dubuisson.
Made that up.
Adam Dubuisson.
Dubuisson.
His birthday's on August 13th. He'll be 25 years old. He's apparently a big fan. And it's his birthday, so I wanted to wish him a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Adam Dubuisson.
Dubuisson. How I love Dubuisson. We can make this work, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Les enfants terribles.
That's something.
Jared.
Yeah.
Your topic is starting us off.
Well, Greg, I am here to shill.
Yes.
Yes, I am here to unapologetically shill. My topic is my new show.
What's your new show?
My new show is called Pockets Full of Soup. And,
Sounds gross.
Yeah, it sounds gross, but it tastes delicious. Yep. There's a story behind Pockets Full of Soup and where that name came from. I think I'll tell it on the show. If you want to know, you should watch.
Oh,
or
wow,
listen.
look at that. What a
Damn.
tease. He's a pro.
Damn.
Yeah, find out where that
So
that
what
comes
is
from.
Pockets Full of Soup?
Well, Pockets Full of Soup is a storytelling show. It's an interview show at heart, but not the kind of interviews maybe you're used to seeing, because I'm not really asking my guests about themselves so much as I'm asking about the people who have made them who they are. For example, Greg Miller.
Yeah.
You're going to appear on this show.
Right after
You're a
this.
guest. Yeah, we're going to get together. We're going to film that. You're going to sit down, and I'm going to say, Greg, tell me about somebody you're thankful for.
Oh, okay.
You're going to pick somebody, not the person you're most thankful for necessarily, but somebody who has influenced you, because each of us in our lives are all formed not just by our own decisions, but by the people around us. I know this really well. The people at this table have changed my life in many wonderful, positive ways.
In many horrible ways.
Wonderful ways. And they're just a few of the ones. Everybody has a story to tell about the human beings that have influenced them. I'm not going to try to make this saccharine or overly sweet. I think the idea here is that we're just going to talk about the real influences, whether they be sad or funny or touching or wonderful or tragic, the ways people have influenced us, made us who we are, helped us, and shooting for something, positive. So, and we're also launching the Patreon around this week,
Sure.
or I am. So the show, again, Pockets Full of Soup, you're going to be able to find that at pocketsfullofsoup.com. And the Patreon is patreon.com/Jared Petty. My name, Jared Petty. And I'm going to be reaching out this week and asking people to help support this. Because in addition to being something that I really think could be useful, a different kind of voice, something that doesn't really exist yet in this conversational, social friend space on the internet, I also, frankly, could use the help with my income right now. And it would be very kind if people were able to assist in that. I think that I'm providing something that they're going to enjoy, and I could use some help from that.
So let's talk about it all over the fact. You put out a lot of interesting tidbits there I want to talk about.
Too many tidbits.
No, not at all. Not at all. Why is this the show you want to do right now?
Okay, well, it's for several reasons. First, I think I'm going to go back to Bob Ross on this, when the Bob Ross Twitch thing happened. Some people here may know, but I, like many people in the world, struggle with depression and anxiety. And Bob Ross's emergence or re-emergence into the world on Twitch and later on Netflix has had a positively therapeutic effect on me, because this guy, for all the goofiness and the silliness of the hair and the kind of weird brand that he built around that, and sitting there painting on public television in front of a black background, strip the irony away from the resurgence and popularity. And what the guy was all about was trying to help you have a better day, not just when he was there with you, but when he walked away. He was there to say there's something in the world besides horror and frustration and difficulty. Yes, those things are real. He never denied them. But he said you also have some measure of control over some parts of your life. Reach out, seize those, and be a better person. Nobody does that alone. And that's, I think, the seed that was planted that got me on this. And I thought, what's something that I can do to try in a tiny way to reach people and help them to to hear again and again and again the testimonies that despite as bad as it all gets, things can get better. Well, every human being in this room, every human being I've ever met, no matter how rough things have turned out, people have stories that are meaningful about what people have done for them or to them or with them that have made things better. Yes, there are bad ones too. I get that. I don't want to be in denial about the rotten way the world can be. I think I've had plenty of occasion to understand how crappy it gets. But in the middle of all that, I also keep running into wonderful things. So first part of that's a force for positivity. Are you hurling objects at Kevin? That was force for positivity as we stone Kevin. That's the beginning. I also wanted to do something that I could do on my own. Something I could manage. This is me and a guest. I have been fortunate enough in my time here in San Francisco to develop a network of friends that are professional entertainers, people that are all about creating good stories. You guys hear it Kind of Funny every day. This is a site about community. This is This is an initiative about community. My buddies over the Comedy Button, and again, people finding ways to reach out. This is my own little way to make that happen. And also, to be frank, another reason I'm doing this at this time in this way and launching it with a Patreon is because this is an expensive place to live, and things have been tight. And this is a measure I believe I can take to help make that happen.
And now that's the other tidbit you keep talking about and branching about. I find what's interesting about you doing this and talking about bringing positivity and bringing this positive person and, shining a light on the good in the world, right? Is that for me, when we worked together at IGN, you were always that guy. Every day you were the nicest, happiest dude, go out of your way to help everybody and all these different things.
It's very kind of you. I have plenty of bad days where I'm horrible and evil.
No, I don't believe that.
I haven't seen that ever, so you're a liar.
I've got a terrible temper. I really do.
No, I believe it. I mean, I guess because you're saying it and you've never lied before, but I don't know. You strike me as one of those, I'm having a bad day, and you to piss Colin off, you put his phone over there when he's not looking. You're like, I got him good. I'm so angry today. But the thing about it is, I want to know, how do you maintain that? You maintain this positive persona, and you've had so many reasons to break. You have been, you know what I mean? I feel like it's that I'll never forget when the accident happened. I'm sure our audience knows all about it. I'll ask you to, tell whatever you're comfortable with. But when that happened, I remember Brian Albert texting me when he knew I was on a plane ride. And when I landed, he called me as soon as I texted back because he knew I was off the plane. And it was one of those things of how can the worst thing happen to the best person we know?
Well, bad things happen to people, I think, regardless of where they are in life. I without exploring the cosmological or theological implications of that, bad things happen, and they happen to everybody. Some worse things happen to some and some to others. But when that car came up the wrong way up the bridge and hit Angie on the face, I guess I should tell the story, shouldn't I?
Sure.
So, yeah, for those that don't know, and this audience, many people in this audience really helped us. About a year and a half ago, my wife and I were struck by a drunk driver driving the wrong way up the Bay Bridge, or an impaired driver. And she came up this one-way bridge the wrong way, hit his head on in high speed. My wife was almost killed. My wife is still recovering. Some of her injuries she will never completely recover from. She's doing far better than we ever thought she would. And in that dark time where we didn't know she was going to make it or not, the first few days there, the people at this table and some other people made it their purely benevolent, utterly generous and human mission in life to find ways to help us. I went to sleep one night and woke up the next morning, and somebody had created a fund to help us out with the considerable expenses related to this that raised a truly enormous amount of money, for which I will never cease to be grateful. But it was really important. And it was you guys in your roles through both what you were doing at IGN and what you were doing here at the beginning of GameOvergreggy and what became Kind of Funny. And also some other kind people, just person after person that reached out. Again, the guys at Comedy Button and the folks at Unlocked and on, the kind people at IGN. But in addition to the money, there were always other people lifting me up. I was never alone. Never. Even when I was alone in a room, I was never alone. there were constant messages and phone calls and texts and knocks at the door and people coming to my desk and people coming to the hospital and people coming to the room. The kind people over at Good Job Brain just showed up to visit my wife because they knew it was her favorite podcast. And they visited her in the hospital. They just out of the kindness of their hearts. And this went on and frankly still goes on. People still help me. And man, I hate being a tragedy. I hate it because there's an element of it where for a while you feel like a great burden upon people, even though you didn't cause the situation. But eventually, in the course of this, I learned to accept something about life that I learned through this. We are lost without each other. We just are. And I think that's the germ, the seed at the center of the show. It's all about how other people make us who we are for the better. That experience plays highly, deeply, intrinsically into that. I don't talk about it publicly very much, but my faith's tied up in that idea that ultimately the love of people for other people is the most important thing in the world and the only thing that really changes things. I've witnessed that, and I'm going to try to find a way to share what I've learned through that. The focus isn't going to be on me. I'm talking to others, and the focus isn't even going to be on the person next to me so much as it is how other people made them the best of who they are.
And I think that's the coolest thing about this. We were talking about this out there, but you know, everybody's favorite thing is themselves. Everybody loves to talk about themselves. Everybody loves making their lives better. And like at the end of the day, that, you know, you are you, so you know you better than anyone else does. However, you are only the people that you surround yourself with. You are the relationships that you have. Your entire life's journey is to find love, to find companionship, to find friendships with people that make you better, that make you feel fulfilled, and all of these things. And I feel like the idea of the show is so brilliant because it allows you to really kind of stop and think about who are the people that are making you strive to be who you want to be and who you want them to have in their lives and whatever it is. And I think that it really does go very deep into what I believe, like you were saying, life is about, which is relationships. And it is working with other people and talking to other people and figuring out like just what we do in the show. Like we learn from each other and from the audience and from everything. But it's like, I think that it's a beautiful thing to be positive. I always love being positive, but I think that to really kind of not just be blindly positive, but to focus on what is positive and what you truly think is important about somebody else, and talking about that allows you to speak about stories in a way that you really can't in any other framing.
Yeah, it's possible to be positive without being unrealistic, but I think to be positive in the face of the horrible realisms that also surround us requires other human help. It just does. And thank God I'm surrounded by kind people who do that, and so are a lot of others. It doesn't always work out that way for everybody. I recognize that, but we should tell the stories. We ought to represent the whole spectrum. You know, there's plenty of evidence out there that the world is a crappy, terrible place full of horrible things. The last few weeks are a reminder to us on a global scale of how awful things are, but that's not the whole story. I just want to present another tiny piece of what's real there, which is that, yeah, that's all true, and so is this. Here's a few of the good ones that also exist there. And I hope I can do that with some sincerity. I had doubts about how this would work out, but I've got a couple of these in the can now. And I was surprised how well it came out. People are eager to talk about the people that have influenced them in the best ways and in the most positive ways. And there are stories that are funny and heart-wrenching and striking and inspirational, all tied up in these little two-person interviews. And I was like, okay, I think this is actually something worth doing. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't think it was. So once I got those test bed pilots in the can, I was like, yeah, we're gonna do this.
Well, at some point you have to drop this whole like, I'm just Jared Petty, and admit that you're good at this.
Yeah,
like, you're great at podcasting. You're great at talking. The Gamescast we just did was great.
Fantastic.
I mean, you could talk to anybody.
I like talking.
It's like I was talking to somebody the other day when we were pitching something. I forget for what show or whoever sales thing we were talking to. Oh, it was panels. People were worried about panels. I was going to be on a Comic-Con, and they were worried about one of these developers climbing up. And I'm like, I could talk to a rock for an hour and probably make it all right. You don't have to worry about it. And you strike me as the exact same way. And that's why we always loved having you on Beyond. But when we introduced you here, and then when we originally introduced you like on Beyond as a personality, at some point we started calling you the Reverend.
Yeah.
Because you had been a Reverend at one point.
Still am, technically. Yeah. Still got my credentials. I haven't taken them away yet.
You talked about how you don't talk about your spirituality often.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that happened to you in the last year and a half, did it weaken it at all? Did it strengthen it? I mean, were there moments?
It changed it. Yeah, there were moments. There still are. I absolutely. This is a process. Here's the thing about almost getting killed. It does terrible things to your body, and if you get that close to dying and live through it, you are never the person you were before. That's what's happened to my wife. And if you are near someone and you care about someone that's happening to, you will never become the person you were again. We can never go back to the way it was. Emotionally, physically, everything about my life, from my goals to my dreams to our plans about our family, all of that changed and is still changing. And I still don't know what the landing point is. And we still get news, and some of it's great. She's so much better in so many ways than we ever thought. And some of it's awful and terrible. And we still get awful news sometimes. And all of that shakes me to the core. And yes, I have laid in the night and cursed God, and I have laid in the night and prayed, and I have even, I believe, occasionally gotten a very palpable response on occasion, that just enough to keep me going. But that response, as I find, I spent 7 years in college studying scripture and 5 years in the pastoral vocation full time. And one of the things I learned, as I interpret it, the story of faith, whether you believe that there's a God or you believe there's no possibility that there's a God, in either case, the story of faith is people reaching out to one another and trying to help one another, not for the sake of their own self-interest, but simply because it makes the other person's life better and makes the world a better place. I mean, as I understand Christianity, the most important command Jesus said there ever was when he was asked, what do you do? He said, well, love God and do that by loving others. I don't care if you particularly about the prayer. I don't care particularly about the offerings and the sacrifices and the songs and the adornments. I care whether or not you help the person next to you, feed the hungry, take care of those who are in trouble, visit prisoners, and don't judge. Even if somebody hurts you, try to help them anyway. And that's hard to do. I have failed so many times in that, but I have been the recipient of so much of it. And it's not about deserving. It's just about divesting.
Well, I think that, when you approached me about your idea and we went out, it's actually when we saw Independence Day. And
all good ideas.
That was a dark day.
Yeah, it was one of the darkest days in modern human history. The day we saw Independence Day, and we were you and I and Aaron and Kate and Angie went to a restaurant. You and I were chatting, and I liked the idea that you had, but I also feel like we could I guess help or elevate a lot of different people in our lives, or a lot of just different people out there that we like. But you've always struck me as, and I've known you for a while now, as someone who deserves it, like deserves more, deserves better, deserves good things. And I've always had an incredible amount of respect for the way you carried yourself, not only after what happened to you and Angie, but actually before. Because I remember when you first started working at IGN, you and I had chatted a few times, but I'm like always running around and being like kind of like curt, or just like, like, all right, that's cool. Like, like, and I remember approaching you a few weeks later and being like, I'm sorry. Like, there's something different about you, isn't there? Like, like you're actually
douchebags like Vince and Janita.
You're just like, you deserve the person to stop and talk. You deserve the time. You have insight. You're smart. You're kind and friendly. Like, you're well spoken and articulate. You're educated. You're open minded. You're worldly. You've lived all over the country. You've lived in Japan. You've seen and done a lot of things with your life. And so I always had a great deal of respect after what happened with you and Angie, because I'll never forget, and you and I have talked about this before, where I remember that one of the first things I asked you after that was like, who did it? And are they are they dead? No, they're not. I was like, too fucking bad. You know? I remember saying that. I'm like, fuck them. You know? And you were like, and I was like, that's too bad that they get to walk away when that piece of shit should be 6 feet under. You know? And I was full of this like vengeance and this like want of revenge. And the man who it happened to, and the man who watched his wife almost die and go through this catastrophe that only modern medical science helped and faith probably helped her get out of, was the one like, no, like she's just a person and she's sick. I remember you saying to me, she's sick. And I'm like, the fuck are you talking about? You know, like, and it showed me like, wow, I'm like totally bent in a certain way that I think a lot of people are about that. And you had such grace about it. And I'll never, ever, ever forget it. Like, I'll just never, like, as long as I can go, we can go do our separate things. I never see you again one day. And I'll always remember that, like, that lesson that taught me about who you are. And so it's because of that we want to go to the audience and ask them for their help to help you elevate this new project. You deserve it. Mm-hmm. And you've 100%. Been, it's the same thing when we were on Podcast Beyond and we helped you raise some of that money so you can pay your bills in the months leading or the months subsequent to that terrible event. And we're going to do it again because you deserve it. And you deserve good things. You're smarter and kinder and friendlier and more real and more humble than almost anyone I've ever met. And the fact that you have all of those things inside you, like, you know, someone might have the humility, someone might have the kindness, you have all of it. And so I respect the shit out of you. And I hope that I know you have very modest expectations about how this is going to do, but I think that you deserve meteoric success in this, and I hope you find it. And if we can be there at that germ stage, that seeded stage, then I'm happy to do it for you.
100%.
Thank you. It means the world to me.
Off your resume there of amazing attributes, Colin left off the time you brought in 2 submarine sandwiches and ate one for breakfast, and I was like, fuck yes. This guy is awesome.
That was a really big sandwich.
God, I'll never forget. I'm like, oh, Jared's even better than I thought he was.
Yeah. That leads to heart disease, kids. Don't do it.
You are authentically one of the good ones.
100%. 100%.
And I know inside you know that. But I've encountered and met so many people now that know you, you know, I've never heard one bad thing about you ever.
Oh, I have a list. I would gladly share them, but perhaps this isn't the context of the time. Thank you for your gracious words.
It's incredible. So you, kind of you. So we're all wishing you the very best. You're part of this family, and so
exactly.
Thank you, and thank you guys for elevating this.
So please support Jared's new endeavor. I think it sounds fun. We're all going to be on it, so
yeah,
probably multiple times.
And so we've talked about the show's launching. There's a Patreon for it, but it'll be available for free everywhere.
Yeah, it's going to be available. Here's the details. So the day this goes up, it's going to be out there. It's going to be available. It's available for free. You're going to be able to find it on YouTube. You're going to be able to find it on the Patreon site. You're going to be able to find it at pocketsfullofsoup.com. We'll be on Twitter. We'll be on Facebook. There'll be a Facebook group. You can join that. Find it there. We will be on iTunes eventually through SoundCloud, but I'm subject to the Apple launch stipulations. That takes a little while. You guys know that really well. But there'll be a direct link to the MP3 on the Patreon and on the website, so you should be able to just go there and find it through the SoundCloud link there. That's the audio version. Of course, come to YouTube, subscribe. That will help tremendously. It's going to be free and available to everybody else. There will be, of course, the usual cadre of backer tier rewards, and you can go to Patreon and find those. And I really do hope you will, because I like money and I could use your help. Yeah, people have already helped. And
I mean, you keep dancing around it. Like, you keep saying you like money and not, but I mean, it all goes back to the Angie thing, right? Like, you do this show because you want to do a show and you want to have your own project.
I do it because I want to have my own project, and I do it because I live in San Francisco and I have a job that is wonderful and great, but my wife hasn't been able to return to work full time. And yeah, it would be helpful to find a way to make ends meet. But also, frankly, I mean, this is going to be fun. If I don't make a dime on this is going to be fun. And I think it's a tiny little way of giving back too.
And I just want to put this out there, just because there's going to be a lot of people out there that's like, oh, well, then why do you live in San Francisco if you need money, blah, blah, blah. You don't live in San Francisco.
That's true. I live I live far away from San Francisco.
You live far away from San Francisco and have to commute to San Francisco for work, which is a very different thing. And that, I think, is a better representation of the financial situation.
I can't really move much farther and still do what I do the way I do it. I live kind of about as far away as you can. And for those not familiar, the San Francisco economic situation is a particular one.
It's a shit show.
Yeah.
It's an utter shit show.
But I'm not trying to, again, not trying to gripe there. But yeah, guys, look, I'm not apologetic about this. I really hope that you will give and get involved. And I hope soon to hear from a bunch of you too. You'll be able to, if you want to send in questions, by the way, you can mail those to mail@pocketsfullofsoup.com. So if you want to ask some of our guest things as they're coming up, some of the people that you can look forward to, you can ask me questions, of course, but you can also ask questions for Greg. We're filming you today. I don't know if they'll get in time when this goes up.
I can tweet out if you want to say I'm doing a new podcast.
Yeah, doing something, but
I can do it right now if you want.
Yeah,
I won't say anything about you.
You won't say anything about me?
No.
No, not at all.
No,
not a little bit.
I mean, do you want me to? I don't want to blow your soft launch.
Let's go. No, that's a couple of weeks from now.
All right,
we'll give it time. So yeah, when this goes up, and then our big launch, that'll be August 1st. But you'll be able to get the content before then, because this is specifically timed for the kind people who give to Kind of Funny's Patreon, who are so generous. And again, everybody's asking you for your money. I get that. I don't want to take advantage of your goodwill, but I really think this is actually something worth supporting, or I wouldn't be here doing this right now.
And of course, as you guys know better than anybody else, of course, just go subscribe on iTunes, the YouTube page, all that stuff. Because even if you don't have money to give or don't want to give it, you want to see what the show turns out to be. Those numbers help. And
Absolutely. So much.
Yeah. Yep. Well, Jerry, we wish you well.
Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Please leave.
Oh no! I don't get to talk about the other
you
topic?
keep going there. Colin, what's your topic?
We were 4, sometimes 5 friends.
Portillo's the 4th. You're the 5th. Get out. It's not one of those sometimes.
So I want to actually, what I was on my phone before was I was trying to round up the where this question came from, because I want to give credit where credit is due, because I think it's a great topic and it's a timely topic. It comes from, let me see.
JD Witherspoon.
No. Okay. Catherine Hickman. So she's a listener of this show. I was tweeting out a bunch of political things, and I've been quote tweeting a lot lately to try to answer more people. And we were talking about the DNC started, the Democratic National Convention started yesterday, and she asked, can we get a Game Over Greggy topic on third-party candidates and consequences of splitting the vote? And this is popular because everyone hates Donald Trump and everyone hates Hillary Clinton. So what are you supposed to do? And I wanted to evolve this and ask you guys, and I think it's especially pertinent that Jared's here, because Jared knows history like I know history. So we can have an interesting conversation first about where third parties have been and where they come from. We can talk about the know nothings and the free soil and all that kind of stuff. And we will. I'll give you that history. but the thing I want to know more about is, do you guys think that there is a moral imperative to vote third party or not to vote third party?
Sure.
As third party elections in 2 famous cases actually fucked a candidacy of a person who should have otherwise won.
Which one are you going to toss out? What are your 2 examples? Because
1912 and 2000 are the material ones that actually changed the course of the election.
This is the one.
Maybe 1992, but that's
yesterday. You brought up the topic today. Yesterday on DNC night 1, this tweet from at Frank Dale was going around. A reminder about 2000 Florida. Gore lost, and he put in quotes, by 537 votes. Nader got 997, a little over 97,000. New Hampshire, Gore lost by a little over 7,000. Nader got 22,000.
So we'll get to 2000, because that was a major one, and I think that people talk about this one a lot with good reason.
Sure.
He didn't lose. He did lose.
Yeah. That's why the
now I mean, so says the Supreme Court. Now
5-4.
So yeah, which is weird because math is math. It should have been 9-0. You would assume. So first she asked about kind of the history and where third parties have been. Now I knew the answers to a lot of these questions, but I wanted to go and look, and I did, about all of the years of consequence that actually third party candidates had run.
Okay.
And so I have those years and I wrote them down. It's 1832 is the first year of massive third party running, but it happened a lot actually. And I knew this, and we can talk about this because we're going to, in the years leading up to the Civil War. It happened almost every year. And then there were ones like in 1892 and 1924, but actually 1912 and 1948 were big years. And then 68 was a big year too, actually.
Yeah.
With Wallace. But
I wonder if you were going to bring that up.
Yeah, 92 and then 2000. We could have another year like that this year. So the history I wanted to bring up, I went and looked up the numbers. I knew the guys, but who ran, but I was like, what were the numbers and what were the consequences of these particular elections for the sake of argument, right?
Yeah.
So in 1832, you had John Floyd running as a nullifier, and you had William Wirt running as an anti-Masonic. And both of those guys actually, nullification, for what people don't know, was the idea that this mostly Southern idea in American politics that do the states have the right to nullify federal laws? In other words, can a federal law be passed by Congress and then the state's like, no, we're just not going to do that?
Which at that point in American history was far less concretely established than it is now.
Exactly.
That seems weird to us now, but then there was genuine question as to which one was the proper understanding of the Constitution.
Right. So nullification was a legit crisis in like the 1830s, for instance. And both of those guys polled in the teens. Mm-hmm. And so both of them got like a substantial amount of the popular vote, and both of them won small amounts of electoral votes. So there was a consequence there. But it wasn't until 1848 and 1852 that shit started to go haywire, because this is when the Free Soil Party started to run. This was the harbinger of the end of the Whigs and the beginning of the Republican Party. The Republican Party, of course, founded to end slavery. And this is when Martin Van Buren, who was already president, a protege of Andrew Jackson and a New Yorker, ran and won 14% of the vote. And then Millard Fillmore in 1856 ran as a Know Nothing. Now, Millard Fillmore, of course, was already a president as well. Know Nothing was a party that was basically anti-Catholic, anti-immigrant, and nativist. Does that sound familiar? And he won 21.5% of the vote and 8 electoral votes. What people don't realize is that in 1860, which was the most consequential election in American history, who was elected in 1860?
Abraham.
John Franklin.
John Franklin was elected.
I was getting ready to
the
jump
great
in.
President John Franklin.
Sorry, I got excited. I was like, ooh, I know. It was very
So what people don't realize about 1860 was when Abraham Lincoln was nominated is that was a clusterfuck. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln won with only 39% of the vote.
Yep.
And the Democratic Party that year split between Breckinridge and Douglas, Southern and Northern Democratic parties. They had two different conventions. They hated each other. And they both split their own vote. And then there was a constitutional party run by John Bell, who won like another 18% of the vote or whatever. And so Abraham Lincoln won with only 180 electoral votes and won with 39% of the vote. And that's when the Southern states were like, fuck it. He won with literally no support from the Southern states. None. Everyone hated him. And because of slavery. And so then I give you that background just to give you, 1912 is the Theodore Roosevelt election, the Bull Moose Party, and this is probably one of the most consequential, because this is the only time a third party came in second.
Yeah.
So a third party candidacy ran, and Theodore Roosevelt actually came in second place, beat the Republican candidate, who was Taft, who was running for re-election, giving us Woodrow Wilson. That was the first example, what we were talking about, of someone losing an election that they should have won and giving us someone who shouldn't have won, which was Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson should have never been president. If Theodore Roosevelt did not run, then Taft would have won re-election.
Right. And to be clear for people who aren't familiar with the history, Roosevelt had already been president at this point. He was coming in, switching parties, coming back in, and he was able to command an enormous amount of the popular vote because of that, or at least proportionally enormous.
Right.
And spoil or alter the course of the election.
For people that are not aware, what basically ended up happening was in 1896, William McKinley is elected. William McKinley's vice president was Theodore Roosevelt. William McKinley is assassinated. Theodore Roosevelt becomes president, right? Theodore Roosevelt is then runs again. I have the dates right? Yeah, 1896. 1900 runs. 1904 runs. Yeah, something's wrong with this.
It's okay. We're close. We're close enough. He won.
Oh no, McKinley
died, and then he served, and then he was reelected.
Right, exactly. So the dates are a little off.
Yeah.
Theodore Roosevelt runs for re-election, and there is no constitutional amendment yet to stop you from running for a third or a fourth or a fifth term. It just didn't happen. It's called George Washington set the precedent. No one even really did that shit at that time. FDR was really the only one that really did it. And he handpicks a successor, Taft, and then ends up fucking hating Taft. Mm-hmm. So he comes back in and it basically, I don't want to use assassinate his candidacy, but basically sabotages his candidacy, comes in as a progressive. Everyone loves Theodore Roosevelt. Taft gets shit upon. And then Woodrow Wilson becomes president. So the first example, and really the only one of two or maybe three examples of a third party presidency destroying who should have won. And then in 48, you have Strom Thurmond, who was like a racist.
The Dixiecrats.
Yeah, exactly. In 1968, you have Wallace, who was a fucking complete racist. Mm-hmm. If you guys don't know anything about Governor Wallace, total segregationist, governor of Alabama, I think, right?
Governor of Alabama.
And ran on a segregationist platform basically for a long time. He actually came back. He was almost murdered in an assassination attempt, became paralyzed, and later on in the 80s ran for governor and won again and apologized for all that shit. But no one really cares about that because he has this much like Strom Thurmond, has this deep-seated like racism.
Well, he had this legacy of hate, and although he became very popular in Alabama in some circles, even when he did that re-election.
There's actually a tunnel in Montgomery named after him still, which is unbelievable. And then we get to 1992, right? And this is where things get really interesting. Ross Perot wins like 18.9% of the vote as an independent candidate. As people know, Ross Perot actually left the race in the summer.
Yeah.
He was winning, left the race, and then came back late and still won 18.9% of the vote. There's a lot of conjecture that he might have just won if he stayed in. And there was a lot of conspiracy theories. It was something like he thought the FBI and the CIA were after his daughter. And there was like black helicopters at his wedding and all this like weird shit. Like he thought the parties were going after him. He was a little crazy.
They did a terrible job explaining that dropout because poll wise he was golden at the moment he walked out. It was shocking. It was one of those. It's one of those great like just kind of unexplained moments in American history where just like nothing about this adds up, and I never got a satisfactory answer. So I think that's why it's such a hotbed for conspiracy. And maybe he just didn't want to deal with it. Maybe, but we don't know, and we probably never will.
And the reason that that's consequential is that might have been really the only time that someone would have realistically won as a third party candidate. And then in 2000, you have the notorious Gore Bush Nader clusterfuck that happens in Florida. So
I was living in
the
Florida
only reason I say all of that and to bring all that up.
You're the problem. You're the hanging Chad.
I was the hanging Chad. I'm sorry. You guys can blame me for that.
So the only reason I bring that up is to set the stage for. And by the way, my dates with McKinley and Theodore Roosevelt were right, I think. I set the stage for, because she asked, like, what's the history? That is the history. The common theme between all of the third party candidates is that they're well outside the mainstream. You're either hyper racist, as Millard Fillmore was, or as Wallace was, or as Strom Thurmond was, or you have very progressive ideals like the Free Soil Party had.
Or Eugene V. Debs, who represented the Socialist Party and got a significant chunk of the vote.
Right, exactly.
In places.
Theodore Roosevelt was a progressive Republican, so he was well outside of the mainstream. I mean, we're talking about a Republican that's more in line with... Theodore Roosevelt would be very at home with progressive Republicanism today, like the person like I am, and he's obviously one of New York's favorite people, but the idea is that they're outside of the mainstream. And so what you're left with is the mainstream candidates, the Republicans and the Democrats, or back in the day, the Whigs and the Democrats, or the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, or whatever it might be. The question, therefore, now that we have the historical perspective, that sometimes this does sabotage elections, is in 1912, was it incumbent on Republican and conservative and independent voters to vote for Taft? Because by voting for Theodore Roosevelt, they lost the election for the man who should have won. But does anyone have the right to win the election?
That's the bigger question. Yeah, who decides who should have won?
Gore was definitely sabotaged by Nader. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Gore would have won if Nader didn't run. But whose problem is that other than Gore's problem? Like, so where do you guys sit on this? Because we're talking today about two candidates that people genuinely don't like. For context, and we talked about this in the past, in post-war polling, which is very scientific. So since 1945, so let's say since Truman ran in 48, right? The four most unpopular candidates in polling is Barry Goldwater, McGovern, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
Two of them are running against each other, which is unbelievable, meaning that even a moderately decent candidate would destroy them.
If
right?
a moderately decent candidate were allowed to survive without also being, I mean, some of what's going on here is that, I got to be careful because I don't want to advocate something irresponsibly. But I do think that some of what's happened in this case is that we had a candidate that a couple of years ago when Hillary Clinton was extremely popular with voters. And 2 years of Benghazi and email exposure has changed that. When Hillary Clinton became the heir apparent for the Democratic Party, she was a far more popular candidate than she is now. She was polling much, much, much higher in approval ratings nationwide than she is at the moment. But over the course of that, whether you approve of Mrs. Clinton or not, she was subject to a very, very close scrutiny that resulted in a gradual decline in her popularity. And whether you want to call that well-deserved repercussions for her actions or a smear campaign, I'm going to leave that to the viewers to decide.
I call it karma.
But whatever you may call it, it did happen. I worry that right now, many moderate candidates on both sides of the aisle who tried to make a move would find themselves subject to very similar systematic treatments. And that's something as old as politics. But right now we're in a very new place where politics is largely about publicity control. That's one element of it. And information control has changed in the last 4 to 8 years more than it has in the last 40 to 80. The way that people are able to manipulate what we hear, what we understand, and what we see has changed a lot. That has to do with everything from the way news networks to the emergence of Twitter, to the fact that I can go to Bloomberg Nerds and Breitbart and CNN and MSNBC, read the same story, and as Wired points out, get 4 completely different headlines that look like 4 different news stories on exactly the same facts. I can choose what reality I live in politically right now and be in the center of the mainstream, not a lunatic fringe guy, which is what that would have been called 15 years ago. We're still learning how to deal with that, and people are still learning to control it. And because of that, almost anybody who's going to go front and center is going to be subject to a degree of marginalization that has not been technically possible in human history until very recently. That has to do with the way news organizations, computing power, and network infrastructure are all now tied together in a way they've never been. And I do think that presents us with challenges where it's going to be very hard for us to get a likable candidate on a national level, maybe for a while. That's the thought on that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the more salient thing to ask, to like delve down into it is a vote for Gary Johnson or Jill Stein a vote for Donald Trump? Right? Or is it incumbent on the person to vote their conscience? Now, as a student of history, I know exactly how elections are engineered from a very microscopic and molecular level. Yeah. I know exactly how it works. Right. And I've been fascinated by it since I was a very little kid. But I used to be very pragmatic, being like, you can't vote third party because there's actually no room for them. I used to even argue in college, because I'm like, there really is only yes or no, right? Pro-life or pro-choice, right? Pro-war, anti-war, free trade, not free trade. Like, there's not that much gray area except when you put them all together.
Yeah, that's an amalgamation. The problem, right? Yeah.
And so my theory now is that fuck that. I don't give a fuck who wins out of those two. If my vote for Johnson was, I'm going to go vote for Gary Johnson as a vote for Trump, then so be it. Like, I'm voting for my man. As long as we keep telling ourselves that we have these two bullshit choices over and over and over again, it will never ever change. And we have to start like peeling into that. We deserve better than the shit sandwich we've been served, and I'm not going to take part in it. So if I have a de facto vote for Donald Trump, so be it. I did not pull the lever for Donald Trump. I do not like Donald Trump. And if he wins because I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton, I would never vote for Hillary Clinton ever, ever. So she is not losing a vote for me. You know what I mean? I will never. I want to reiterate that.
Maybe that's
ever vote for Hillary Clinton.
Maybe that's the answer to your question, Colin. Maybe it's not. Maybe voting your conscience isn't binary. Maybe voting your conscience is simply a matter of testing your conscience and going, I want to vote for this person because I believe they're the best candidate, or I want to vote for this person because I believe that will keep the lesser of two evils, or whatever. They're both questions of conscience. You know, if you vote for a third party candidate because you think they make the best president, that's a choice of conscience. That's a great choice to make. If you vote for one candidate over another, even though you don't particularly like one of them, but you think the other one is the coming of the dark apocalypse, that's also a vote of conscience. They're different weighings of your conscience, but they're both made for the same reasons. And so I'm not sure that they're mutually exclusive. In my case, this is an easy election for me. I like Hillary Clinton. So this is going to be an easy vote for me. I do understand why many people are vying with frustration about two candidates that they don't like. For me, were I faced with a situation where I had Mr. Trump as one candidate, somebody that I genuinely think would make a historically terrible president, that's a personal belief, and another candidate, let's take Mrs. Clinton out and pops out. Let's say George Wallace is the other candidate, you know, and George Wallace, who was a horrible racist pig in many ways, or at least during the early parts of his political career, and I can't speak to his heart later. Looking at both of those people, you know, suddenly third party candidate looks more appealing to me, and I get how some people feel that way about it, but like you say, there's no universe you'd have voted for Mrs. Clinton. I don't think I can vote for Donald Trump. And if I was looking at a terrible candidate and a bad candidate, my odds are my choice of conscience would be to vote for the bad candidate most of the time. In this case, I don't feel that way. I actually don't think Mrs. Clinton's a bad candidate. So I'm having an easier time with this election than many people.
I feel like I'm with you in the sense that my vote would be for the better end result, and even if I don't necessarily love one or the other. But what's interesting to me is talking about the fact that we're in the place that we are with Twitter and news being how it is and all this stuff, where Colin, you backing this guy is instantly going to mean that all of your followers are now going to be aware of him in a way that they weren't before necessarily. And I think that if there's more views out there, maybe the numbers can change enough, and I think that that's kind of the real question where you're talking about the thing of conscience, where it's like, where's that tipping point of that being enough to make the third party enough to relevant, disturb this whole thing, to disrupt the system that we have? Because I do think that it's choosing the lesser of two evils, but then if you introduce a third option, you need to be able to back that third option enough to make it disrupt things in a way, thinking towards the future, thinking towards trying to make things better instead of just trying to make a point against the other two, But like, how do you get there without pushing it? Is it maybe this time you voting for him and you rallying and pushing for him and believing in him is going to, if that brings Trump, that's a bad thing. But is it going to, set it up for 4 years from now that more people are going to be like, huh? And then more people 4 years later, and then maybe in 20 years get to a point where it is a little bit easier to come up with the choices of this or that. But right now, I personally believe that it's like, it is a lesser of two evils thing. And it's just like, the Trump is just bad news. Like,
yeah, that's my thing, is I'm voting against Trump. That's what I'm casting my vote for. And so I'm going to cast it for Hillary, who I really don't have an opinion pro or con on. I'm not positive or negative on her. She's just Hillary Clinton. That's what she always did. Did this email thing. All right. Whatever. Emails. Like, my hope isn't, I feel you on the third party, hopefully that, you'd support him here, and then the domino effect, and it would all change, and da-da-da. I feel like we've had, granted, nobody, I don't think, in terms of like a system, somebody shaking up the system like Bernie Sanders or whatever, like that was a groundswell, that was a big deal this time around, and granted, not third party traditionally, but I'm talking about outside of the normal thing. Mm-hmm. My hope is that what we've seen in this election cycle, and I've talked about before, is that 4 years from now, whoever the incumbent is versus whoever the up-and-comer is, the up-and-comer should... from here on out, hopefully, knock on wood, politics start to, as usual, start to fade away, and it's going to be a bunch of people like, I'm a normal guy, I'm a normal person, here's what it is, I will tell you what I'm feeling, I will tell you what's going on, taking the lessons learned from this of Trump being one extreme, Bernie being the other extreme, like, I'm the moderate normal guy, you know what I mean? I believe this and that, and I'm not going to get caught up in this, and I don't want to yell at him. Why would we, like, you hope that that's whoever the incumbent is up against next time, because right now it is this weird thing of Hillary is that still this holdover, I feel, from like the president we've seen all the time of just saying what they need to say to get elected, carpetbagging, do whatever. And then Trump is I'm popular because I say whatever the fuck I think, but I think crazy things and I say it all the time. And it's like, fuck, can't we have a normal person who says what they think?
And that's an interesting observation, Greg. The idea that, the thing that drives me crazy about Donald Trump is that he is in a very perverse way addressing very real problems. Mm-hmm. He looks at widespread unemployment and a groundswell of anger at economic frustrations, and then proceeds to offer he offers blame described as solutions, or blame disguised as solutions to that, which is the element that I find corrupt. I do think that the racism and the Islamophobia and is perverse. And very frustrating. But at heart, the fact that a bunch of people in America feel disenfranchised is a very real problem. It's just not the right answer to it. I think Mrs. Clinton I think in a lot of ways Mrs. Clinton's a good candidate. I also think what's happening in the campaign has at least forced her in directions where she's realizing she's not going to be able to get through her presidency without addressing some of this. But ultimately, like Greg, I look forward to a future where we're engaging these problems. If enough people vote for Gary Johnson, does the Republican Party or the Democratic Party ultimately become more libertarian? Does that happen if they see that there's an enormous section of the population out there that feels underrepresented? Maybe.
I keep holding on hope for what Colin's always talking about, the Republican Party dying and becoming something new or splitting into two.
It's happened. I mean, it's so remarkable that the parties haven't died. We haven't had a dead party in over 150 years. I mean, that's an incredible thing. Parties were coming and going in the first 60 or 70 years of the Republic. Like, it was fucking like nobody's business. Yeah. Like, there were the Federalists and Anti-Federalists were old news, but that was like George Washington's party and Thomas Jefferson's party.
Yeah.
They were gone by the 1820s. They were gone. Those men were still, Washington died in 1799, but Jefferson was still alive when that party was dead.
Some of that was the self-definition that was taking place. The fact that the country was still defining what it was. I mean, we think of the United States of America as a single unified entity. There were a lot of questions about what that was. You know this better than anybody. Were we the United States of America or the United States of America? Which inflection were we? Those questions were questions those parties were struggling with, and ultimately were decided in the very infancy of the Republican Party. But parties, instead of dying, you're right, they have changed. They've changed tremendously.
They've changed radically, but they haven't changed completely. That's the one thing everyone's like, they changed faces. I'm like, no, they didn't.
Not completely.
But they have changed. The Republican Party. If you ask like an uneducated person who didn't know anything about politics, like, which party freed the slaves and which party had the slaves?
Yeah.
They'd be like, oh, the Democrats freed the slaves. I'm like, no, the Democrats were the fucking slave owners.
No, Southern Democrats are the reason Jim Crow survived as long as it did. It's just true.
Yeah, and they were the one, the Democrats, George Wallace was a fucking Democrat. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. And that's the thing that always got me. I'm like, how did we let this happen? Our party, and I'm not a Republican anymore. I left the party, but I always wonder, I'm like, how the fuck did we let that happen to us?
I think, that's a long, complicated tale. I think
some of LBJ and the Southern strategy.
Yeah, exactly. The Democrats changed. I mean, that's a lot of it, and the Republicans didn't adapt along with them. LBJ kicked as much of a jerk as that guy could be. He kicked that door down, kicked it wide open, and it could never close again.
Yeah. So I think the reason I wanted to bring this up is not only because she asked or whatever, and I think it's an interesting topic, but it really does come to the fore this particular election cycle. It doesn't have to be Gary Johnson or Jill Stein. I don't really give a fuck who you vote for. It's just that I don't no longer buy into the notion that you have to vote against an idea. You should vote aspirationally for the person that you think would be the best president. Now, I think that I can name you 10 people that I think would be a better president than Gary Johnson very easily, including Mitt Romney, who I cannot fucking believe didn't get involved in this election because he would have won. I want to reiterate that he would have won and it wouldn't even been close. So, because we could talk about Hillary Clinton as being, so obviously she has her supporters. 65% of Americans say they don't trust her. Mm-hmm. How can we have a president that 65 out of 100 people in the United States don't even trust? And now as a New Yorker, as a Rockefeller Republican, old school paleocon New Yorker, I have a fucking huge grudge against Hillary Clinton, and that's well documented.
Of course,
she is a fucking opportunist. She has done nothing of note. She is who she is because of who she is fucking married to, and she doesn't have. We don't believe in dynastic fucking shit in the United States.
Yeah,
I don't believe it.
Being a senator and the Secretary of State.
She was given. Would she have been elected senator if she wasn't Bill Clinton's wife? Would she have run for president if she wasn't Bill Clinton's wife?
Almost certainly not.
And would she have been Secretary of State if she wasn't Bill Clinton's wife?
Almost.
Those are the whole sequence of events that I'm talking about. She is a smart woman, an interesting woman. Maybe would have been an interesting politician. Was elevated because of the popularity of her husband. Now. That's opportunism, and that's nepotism.
But was successful because of the capabilities she had when she took advantage of those opportunities.
Sure, I'm not taking away that she was Secretary of State, which is an immensely important position, and I'm not taking. I was in New York when she won election.
I mean, I understand your frustration. I get, but I mean, the death of the Rockefeller Republicans is a bad thing for America.
Yeah, it is, and what people don't, and that's the other thing that's so frustrating about we've lost Republicanism, and that's why I left the party. And people can read my post on Facebook about why I left, but. New York was dominated by Republicans at times. Mm-hmm. And we were normal people. Long Island still has Republicans and upstate still has Republicans, but we lose every election now because we don't control the New York City, and we never really controlled New York City. But the Rockefeller Republican strand was a moderate Republican strand. We had George Pataki was a moderate Republican governor when I was a kid.
Yeah.
My Long Island was represented by moderate Republicans like Grucci and King, but we've lost sight of that because we have these parties running to the edges with Bernie Sanders and with Donald Trump, where it's not in a safe place. And I think the only way to recalibrate the system is not to accept that is normal. It is not normal. It says a lot about us that Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are our nominees. It says a lot about us. Now we see with the DNC leak that they really tried to engineer this in a way that would make her win. And I still have of the mind that Sanders would not beat Trump, because I'm not of the mind that Clinton's going to be Trump at this point.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not going to predict the future on this one. I think either one of them could win it.
I think it's going to be a coin toss at the very end. 538, which is Nate Silver's website, which is a very well respected pollster, polling website and prognosticator of politics, has it at 55% Trump right now. Now, which is, I never thought I'd see the day when it would be anything but like 10% Trump.
But
the DNC
the fact that Pennsylvania is even in play, I don't know what to do with. I feel like it's like the Zoolander thing. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I don't know.
It's an unbelievable stretching of the map that Trump's doing. Mike Pence was not a smart move, but it puts the Rust Belt in play. There's a lot of political strategy going on with these guys for sure, but I just feel like we deserve better. And I guess that's what I'm saying is, vote. I want to encourage people to vote their conscience. Vote for the person you think should be president and send a message. Every vote you have has unintended and intended consequences. There's blowback on everything we've ever done in electorally. But I don't buy the argument that we have to vote against the lesser two evils, or we're going to keep finding ourselves in these positions until good people run again. And we might, I don't know Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump personally. They both might be very good people, but they're not my definition of good people running for president. They're not, and I'm concerned about it. I'm really concerned about it. It's not that I'm like rah Gary Johnson, because I'm really not. I've known about Gary Johnson for many years. Gary Johnson was a very popular Republican governor of New Mexico. He's been bouncing around for a long time. And he has some ideas that I agree with and some ideas I don't. And I agree with you that Donald Trump is specifically talking about things that need to be talked about, just not in a way that's eloquent or appropriate.
Oh yeah, I'd say beyond appropriate. I mean, that's it. Donald Trump. We talked about Thurman and we talked about Wallace. We're talking about a person who, contextualized against their age, is advocating ideas every bit as egregious. That's the problem there, and that's the part that keeps sticking in my craw. I don't know if I'm thinking with my head or my heart on this one. I think it's stuck in my throat right in between, but I know I'm choking when I think about it, and that it's just too familiar. There's just this little echo. I keep hearing this when I listen to Mr. Trump speak. It's that voice in the back of my head echoing from high school civics class, watching this the floor, the Senate hearings, and just hearing, "Have you no decency? At long last, have you no decency?" running through the back of my head. And Google that, guys, if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's worth looking up. Yeah,
and I think and I know you want to wrap up, but I think, to Trump, like, I think they both have interesting things to say. I think Trump has every right to speak on free trade, which has screwed manufacturing in this country, which, by the way, was partly the fault of Bill Clinton.
Yep.
And I think I think that he's appealing to those people. I also I don't necessarily think that free trade is always a good idea. I don't. And we have, so he speaks to that. I think we have a massive illegal immigration problem in the United States. Absolutely. I think we have every right to control our border, and I think we have every right to tell people that aren't supposed to be here that they shouldn't be here. I think that that's totally fine. You can have a respectful way to talk about that, and on the other side, Hillary Clinton is just eating it all up, but she's not being strategic enough, and she's changing her mind on the left, right, and center because of Bernie Sanders and what he did. So it's a complicated issue. I will say this, to your point about what Trump reminds you of. There's a lot of hyperbole out there about Trump reminds people of Hitler, and this and I'm like, you really have no idea what the fuck you're talking about. But the United States in 2016 is not Germany in 1933. Germany in 1933 was suffering from hyperinflation. They had just lost a humiliating war. They had no jobs. And there was a bunch of
actually two out of three of those sound kind of familiar,
but not nearly to the extent that it was going on in Germany. And there was also a mythos and a lore there about the stab in the back and the November criminals, and there was a bent on eugenics and anti-Semitism, and all that shit was embedded in Germany. It's a very complicated scene in Nazi Germany, or in Weimar Republic Germany, that led to the kind of perfect storm of him becoming chancellor in 1933. And I'm not saying that there isn't some comparison. I'm just saying when people are like, it's going to turn into Nazi Germany, I'm like, no, it's not. It's not. I'm sorry, it's not. If Trump becomes president, it's not going to turn into a fascist dictatorship. It's not going to happen. But there was something that he said that I thought was so interesting. I want to end it on this, that I was like, this sounds like Hitler. And it was not something that I don't think a lot of people picked up on, because people weren't listening closely and they were just whatever. It was that he talked about, we've suffered humiliation after humiliation. And I was like, that sounds like Hitler. You know, that's what he preyed upon, the nativism and the nationalism. And that's the shit you have to be scared of. So does Trump have some fascist tendencies? I think so. Does he have some totalitarian tendencies? Yes, but the system will not allow for that to happen. It won't. So unless the system is uprooted, like it's a totally different kind of thing. So I want people to keep things in the context as well. Should Donald Trump get elected, and I hope that doesn't happen, and I don't want that to happen, we will survive it. You know, we will. But so it's important to keep things in context and to keep things realistic as well about how we can combat realistic problems as opposed to making a mountain out of a molehill. That man is clearly a bigot, and that man is clearly a sexist, and he's clearly a racist, but he's not Adolf Hitler. You know, and so we have to keep those in mind as well. Nonetheless, vote your conscience. If you want to vote for Hillary Clinton, vote for Hillary Clinton, Johnson, Jill Stein. Even if you want to vote for Trump, no judgments here. But I say we got to get out of this system, and the only way to break this two-party system, the only way to break this ideas of yes or no's or lesser of two evils, is to start showing that we fucking mean it. And we got so close with Ross Perot, and I think we can have another moment like that. I do think Gary Johnson will be on that stage. And I think that he just has to reach 15% in aggregate polling, and he'll be on that stage. And that's going to show everyone that there's a third choice.
I think there's a good chance he's going to get there too. Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that they're both polling so low that if he can peel off a fourth of each of their voting block, he could win. You know, now he's not going to win, but it's aspirational. So, you know, I wanted to bring that up. I'm glad we got to talk about it. But just remember to vote, or you have no right to talk about any of this at all.
This episode is brought to you by Loot Crate. Loot Crate is a monthly subscription box service for epic geek and gamer and pop culture gear. For less than $20 a month, you get 4 to 8 items that include licensed gear, apparel, collectibles, unique one-of-a-kind items, and more. Make sure you head to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the offer code kindafunny to save $3 on a new subscription. Loot Crate is more than just a subscription service. It's an entire community of fans that share their experience and interact with each other around the unboxing of each month's crate. And they guarantee more than $40 in value in every crate. Sometimes it's a lot more. Every month there's a different theme, and all the items are curated around that theme. Previous crates have included things from franchises like Star Wars, Marvel, The Walking Dead, The Legend of Zelda, and many more. From bad guys doing good things for the wrong reason to good guys with questionable tactics, August is the perfect time to explore the anti-hero. Hero. I added that echo for you, Kev, because they put it all in caps. They didn't put the echo. They just put anti-hero. So I did echo for you, Kev. Walk the hero villain line with this 100% exclusive collection of items from DC Comics, Archer, Dark Horse, and Kill Bill. That includes 2 great collectibles, a wearable, and of course, our monthly t-shirt. And don't forget the pin. Remember, you only have until the 19th at 9 p.m. Pacific to subscribe and receive that month's crate, and when the cutoff happens, Jack, that's it. It's over. So go to lootcrate.com/kindafunny and enter the offer code kindafunny to save $3 on your new subscription today. Jared.
Yes, my friend.
Last week on the GameOvergreggy show, I went out on a limb.
All right.
And I said something that angered a lot of people.
Uh-oh.
Set the world on fire.
Really?
Broccoli. That shit's good. Today I have a similar follow-up.
All right, here we go.
Music. That shit's good.
I'm with you.
See, no, we do these music conversations every so often here. We one of the famous topics we did here was where we rated 5 different things: video games, reading, music, something, 2 other things.
Great.
Music was way down there.
Movies and TV.
Music was way down there for me. We've done music recommendations before. I'm like, I don't know. Weezer. Going to see Weezer Sunday. Very excited. Post flying in from Chicago. That's all well and good. But a few months ago now, Jared Petty, my Apple Music, I was doing that, the free trial.
Yeah.
And it stopped.
Okay.
And I was like, fuck. And I'm like, I don't want to give you, Apple Music was fine, but I know Colin's always talking about Spotify.
Yeah.
So I joined up with the Spotify.
Okay.
Ooh.
Started using that service. You're booing Spotify?
Yeah, I'm not a Spotify fan. We've been through this. Keep going.
Join up with the Spotify. Way more impressed with it than I am the Apple Music because it's just beaming. It's my phone, it's my iPad, it's the computer, it's the PS4. I turn on one of them. It's like, oh, you're already listening on another one. Do you want to listen here? I'm like, yes or no, maybe. I don't know. It depends on what it is.
Whatever you want.
However, I've been getting around with this music now, and I've noticed today it is now a crucial part of my day. When before it never was. I like music here and there. I had a song. I'm
so glad to hear that.
I buy all the Nashville stuff because I want to support the TV show Nashville. CMT, what up? Thank you for your help. Support Nashville. I buy all the albums for that. I have all my Weezer stuff. I have my Taylor Swift stuff. So it used to be I'd get on the planes or do whatever. I walked to the grocery store. I listened to what I had on my iPod, and it was great. Okay, good.
Right.
But now with this Spotify thing, I'm getting this Lana Del Rey girl I've never heard of. She had a song about video games.
Interesting.
Put her in. I'm like, hell.
It's not about video games. It's called video games.
Well,
I'll give you
it's
that.
about her fucking some guy that plays video
Lana
games.
Del Rey
So
is
just,
fan-fucking-tastic.
I was listening to that with somebody else the other day, and I was like, are all her songs like this? Because I had no idea what they were. And no, they are kind of. They're all that, like, I thought it was like somebody doing like a bassy thing.
Each album has a different vibe, a different kind of subgenre to it.
Right.
I really like her a lot. A lot of people dislike her because she's kind of mainstream for being that kind of singer-songwriter type.
Sure.
I think that's rubbish. She's amazing. I love her style and her zero fucks given attitude that is really clear from her music.
Okay.
And I'm a big fan of Born to Die. Born to Die. Yeah, that album.
The video game's off that.
Yeah, exactly. That album's so good. It kind of has a nice hip hop vibe without the rap to it in terms of the production of the beats and the instrumentals. It has a nice orchestral feel that I really appreciate. Her newest album, or Ultra Violence, and then she had one after that. Both of those are a bit more of the alt rock feeling.
Sure.
I'm a little less into those, but having said that, it's still fantastic, and she is still amazing. And I've never heard a song from her that I dislike.
Yeah.
Sorry,
that's fine. I don't care. I like Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
Del Rey in the video game song. I listened to some other stuff. It didn't make it to my list. That's how I like you. I listen to this, and then if I hit the little plus button, you get added to my
Day
song.
at the Races is my song.
That's the jam from Lana Del Rey.
Off to the Races.
Off to the Races.
Day of the Races is.
I'll look into it for you. Is it off Born to Die?
Yeah, track 2.
Okay, I'll look into it for you. So you're getting to some of my things here, but so I want to know about your rituals with music, because now what I find, here's what I do every day, and it's gonna sound dumb. I don't care. It's my ritual, and I like it a lot. I wake up. I walk the dog, feed the dog because he sucks. Usually sit around till 9:15, 10:45, whenever Kevin decides to fucking poof out of the middle of the air so I can buzz him in the goddamn house. What? It's true. Am I wrong? I can't shower till you get to the house. Am I wrong? Say something. You're going to talk shit for a second, then you realize it's true, didn't you? Got you dead to rights, boy. Anyways, do whatever it is I'll have to do. But when it's time to shower, I'll go or brush my teeth, go in there and all that stuff. I go in there with the iPad because I bought one of these waterproof speakers back when I was down this thing. Put it up, piece of garbage. I had to be like really close to it for the Bluetooth. Now, granted, I bought the $20 version. Had to be close to the thing or whatever to play off my iPhone, and it finally just broke or whatever. We used to use it for calls. Remember, Tim, you and I would go take calls, and I didn't like it at all. And then I got another one at VidCon. I can't even figure out how to connect the goddamn thing because I'm apparently 75 years old. So I was like, whatever. But I noticed when I take the iPad in there, the speakers on the iPad are really good. And if I put it in the corner, next to my sink, it bounces off all the walls and it's really loud and it's perfect. And I like it a lot. So I go in there, I put on either my songs, maybe one of these, I like the acoustic coffee house playlist or whatever. There's a lot of good playlists where I just find new music, put a pin in that one. Put it in the corner, play, do all this stuff, right? But then I turn off all lights and I light a candle and I shower by candlelight. And I like it a lot. Not for the romance of it, which is very romantic, don't get me wrong. But it's like I'm in a spa. I'm listening to good tunes in there. I'm washing up.
And this is morning candles. This isn't evening candles.
No.
This is starting
the day. I'm like, let's get into a therapeutic space here.
And that's important because your bathroom, no window, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I shut the door.
So it's just, you close up, you are in the darkness. It's you. It's a candle. It's beautiful music.
Yeah.
It's the rush of the water. You got that soapy lather all over you. Do you ever like scrub along with the rhythm?
No.
Do you sing along?
If it's a good song, yeah.
A good song? What's the last song you sang along with?
Oh, I've sing along with it. I mean, if I know the song, I'm singing along.
You're singing along. Okay,
okay.
So it's a. Do you ever change the music in the shower? Do you ever get angry, get out of the shower, and change the track?
No, that's not, because it's over on the other side there in the corner, tucked away. And again, usually, if it's playing off one of the playlists, it's going to be gone soon enough. And if it's in my song file, it's usually good.
See, that's one of the keys to a long and successful marriage is work out the mutual music rules early. I've learned because you're on a road trip, you got the playlist there on your phone, or you've got it, however you've got it arranged, or even if it's just the radio stations, if you're traveling on a long trip. Being able to be with somebody who it syncs up with you musically, not just in the type of music you listen to, but important factors like, hey, do you skip ahead in the middle of songs you don't like? Do you keep doing that? Do you change the station every time a new song comes up? Are you somebody that has a playlist prepared and is compatible with that idea? Or do you just want to put it on random and jump around? These are the burning questions you need to work out before you agree to spend the rest of your life with someone. because if you don't, you will regret it.
And you stumble on something. This is when I knew, ladies and gentlemen, that I had gone from a Spotify Padawan to a Spotify Sith Lord, and I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Wow.
Jedi, Trekkie.
Yeah.
I went to
the Sith don't have Padawan.
I'm sorry, Padawan to a red shirt on the Enterprise. I knew this
That's
when
even more wrong.
I woke up one day and I was in a mood and I wanted music to fit that mood, and I made a playlist to go run errands. And I was like, I got it. Spotify, red shirt.
How do you feel about that, Colin?
Making playlists.
How can you put that into words?
Making fucking playlists because I'm all set. I know what I want. I wasn't going to go into because sometimes it doesn't work, Kevin, where you have the bucket of all the songs I like.
Yeah.
And sometimes I want to shower by that. Sure, whatever comes on, comes on. But sometimes, Kevin, I'm in a motherfucking mood.
Yep.
And I didn't, for a while, I was like, well, I guess I skip, but how do I skip in the shower? And then I was like, wait, you can make playlists on Spotify. And I did it. I I was like, I make 11 songs, ran my errands all around the neighborhood before they burned out. Say magnifique. So what I want to know is your music ritual, if you have one. And then the follow-up question is, and we can go around and after the ritual, I want to know how you discover music. Because these stations, what was I listening to today? I guess I was listening on my iPhone, so it's not sunk up here. But I was on one of these stations I hadn't listened to today, right? And I noticed, it's acoustic, it's acoustic pop. Acoustic pop. And I just was adding songs left and right. I'm like, all these are good. I'm like, maybe I should hang out on the acoustic pop more. Maybe I'll shower by acoustic pop tomorrow.
Yeah.
So
liven it up.
Jared Petty, how do you discover music?
Okay, I discover music, I think, 3 different ways. The first way I discover music is I'm a internet radio type service listener. I have a finely tuned, in this case, Pandora, which is what I use a lot of the time. And I have my Pandora channels, which are only a few, but they are lovingly crafted into preferential, just these beautiful heaven dreams of exactly the music I want to hear at any moment. And this is key for me, the occasional song that I don't like. And I think it's very important that something pop in that jars me out and makes me go, wait a minute, I need to make a value assessment of that. And I love that. So one of my discoveries comes through new songs coming in through you might like. So some of it's algorithmic and just being fed music that I create channels that are tailor-made, but not too tailor-made. I try to keep the parameters a little bit open, so I keep getting new kinds of things. And when I realize I'm hearing the same songs over and over and over, that's when I switch and create a new channel, and I start the crafting process over again, usually with my mood, and I'll just listen to that channel, and then I'll switch back around and rotate through. That's one way of discovering. The second way I like to discover music is through this, what you and Tim just did. Social interaction with people, talking with people about the music you love. It's such a great way, because music is something that if there's real magic in the universe, it's music. It does things to us that it emotionally transforms us in ways that no other force outside of narcotics I can do. I mean, music can make you break down and weep. Music can make you furious and angry. I have been at concerts where I've watched acts of gratuitous violence played out, I think largely because of hours and hours of screaming music and the mood that built in the people around. And I have seen people transformed, literally their lives changed in moments that were largely influenced by the music going on around them. In that case, I'm thinking in terms of a spiritual setting, things that have happened in churches where music is a very important part of what happens, even though, frankly, a lot of Christian music sucks. So I think that engagement, that testimony, people telling you about or playing things for you. Oh my gosh, that's talking about music is at least as fun as music. That's why Rolling Stone existed, it exists. That's why you have this whole culture built around it. That's why MTV at one point was around. And to this day, that's why you have social structures built on the internet around sharing music and the channels where people listen to it. So I love that. That's the second way of discovery, through human interaction. And the third way, because I am an old man, is album covers. I still buy albums. I really do. I actually buy CDs on occasion. I am not cool. I do not have a record player that plays the vinyl. I don't have anything that plays vinyl. I grew up around vinyl. My parents had a huge record collection. My love for the fidelity of vinyl extends not to the sound and the ritual of playing the whole album, but to the art. I adore album art. I just love it. And records have that huge, beautiful album art. And it's so great. So CDs have these miniaturized versions of it. And just because I still enjoy the art that goes into an album, even though I realize albums are almost an antiquated form of expression at this point. They are a boutique item. it's all about singles and selling concert tickets now. That's how you do it. But I still love them. And so I will occasionally buy an album just because I see a picture on the internet that I think is really cool of an album. I'll go album hunting. I'll go searching through various websites and then I'll read and be like, oh, this sounds like the kind of thing I might be interested in. And I will just grab music off that. Sometimes I'll buy a sample track, maybe one.
Sure. And
I do purchase music. I'm not not so into the just grabbing music from everywhere. I like to buy music when the opportunity arises. And so I'll go out and buy that new music and buy that new track. And if I like it, I'll try to buy the album.
See, that's what I've been doing for a while, where when on the occasional I'd be in a car or something, or somebody else would play a song, or I'd hear a song and be like, that's really good. And then I'd go on iTunes and buy the album or whatever.
Yeah,
because I was trying to for a while figure out how to get new music into my library, because it was one of those things where I noticed I was just listening to the same stuff over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, it's a fun way to do it. And then what's great when they meet up. I have to give a shout out for a second to Shooter Jennings, one of my absolute favorite contemporary musicians. I discovered him, of all places, through satellite radio. I used to work on the road before this job. I drove sometimes 13, 14 hours a day for work. I repaired IT equipment at 911 centers, and I would listen to a lot of satellite radio, which introduced me to new things constantly. I discovered Shooter through that. Man, the album cover on his most recent album is a luck dragon, like from the Neverending Story, holding an M16 and wearing sunglasses.
Yeah,
and it's. I want that. I want a mural of that in my living room. But also, Shooter makes good music. You should all check out Shooter Jennings.
Do you have a ritual for music when I say that?
Yeah, I do.
What do you think when you listen to music? When I say, how do you listen to music?
Music is an integral. Without music, I don't want to live. I listen to music for hours sometimes at work. When I'm writing, in particular, I listen to music constantly. I often listen to music in transit. I have long commutes to and from on the bus. I like to listen to music when I'm in the shower, but even more, I like to listen to music when I'm in the bath. I don't do the bath thing all that often. But you get the tub all nice and clean, lay in there and soak and listen to great music. And I absolutely have a house cleaning music ritual. That's a very important one. But all of those pale in comparison to the most important one, which is the road trip music, which involves days of preparation beforehand as you prepare the perfect conglomeration of playlists for every situation and have them right there. The playlist is king. I used to love to make mixtapes, mix CDs back when that was a thing. I love crafting and forget this random stuff. I want them to come in just the right order so that you can have everything flow and jar and switch at just the right moment. You want to take that kind of slow, sad song and immediately follow up with something peppy or quirky or happy, and then follow that up with a little off the wall, then maybe a pop ballad, then maybe something a little more twangy and obscure. I love that. So that's the biggest ritual, preparing and listening to the playlist before the road trip.
Okay.
Yep. Going on a road trip tomorrow. Playlist.
Where are you going?
I'm going down to LA.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm going to Anaheim. My wife and I have never been to Disneyland.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So... Yep.
You just made Tim's day.
You guys.
Well, I lived in Orlando for years, and so I've done Walt Disney World time after time after time after time after time. But it's our 15th anniversary, so we're going down to Disneyland.
Doing it big. Yeah. I'm excited about that.
So excited.
Colin, how do you discover new music?
I mean, a lot of different ways. I always found it, I don't want to say it's strange, although it is. I want to say it's more alien to me when someone's like, I don't listen to music or I don't care about music. I'm like, are you kidding me?
How many people have you guys met?
A lot. Like
really?
over the years, like a lot of people are like, I don't listen to music, or I don't care, or I just listen to the radio, or I don't. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
I've only met one person in my entire life that doesn't like music, and that's Kevin Coelho. Blows my mind.
Kevin, you don't like music?
He does not like me unless it's Queen. He does not like music.
Fucking love Queen.
So, I mean, it's a good choice, but so like I was really I was blessed as a kid to be grown up in a very musical household, and I was surrounded by music. My parents love music, and my siblings love music and play music, and to a degree, and everyone played an instrument at some point, and that was instilled in me when I started playing drums. So it's always been a really important part of my life, and I always discovered music in various ways. I think that's why I have an eclectic. I think I have like a profoundly eclectic taste in music, but I couldn't imagine it being any other way. I remember actually yesterday the Uber driver was like, do you want something, like, is this music okay? And I'm like, yeah, I kind of like want to listen to anything, to be honest. It's totally cool with me. So I feel like I discover music these days through Spotify. They have a lot of good discovery tools. I used to use Pandora back in the day to do the same thing. I'm also just lucky enough to have a lot of musician friends and a lot of friends that
Ramon.
a lot of friends that play music or are in music scenes or work in music companies or whatever. And and often expose me to that as well. And since I'm pretty well known with our audience of being a huge music fan, a lot of people supply me with a lot of bands that I would have never discovered without them that I listen to now, like Hacktivist or Fair to Midland, and a few of these bands where I'm like, these are fucking really great bands that I would have never even known about because there's such a wealth of music out there. But to me, it goes beyond that because, music is a fundamental part of my life. I listen to music every day, and it's not something that I do passively. Like I have to sit down and listen to it, and like really like listen to the music. I get distracted by it all the time when I'm supposed to be doing other things because I love it so much. And if it was up to me, like if someone was like, you can only play video games or listen to music, I'd be like, I'd choose music 100 out of 100 times. Like it would be there would be not even I wouldn't even think about it.
So what's your ritual then? You listen to it every day and you have to focus on it.
Yeah. I sometimes when I'm in bed, I just take my headphones and I listen to music for like an hour before I even get out. Or I'll get up and pee as I often do. And then, I'll lay down and listen to music, or when I don't really work out too much, but I'd always work out and listen to music and, clean and listen to music, or do work and listen to music, or just like chill and listen to music. Sometimes I'm just like, I really just want to listen to that record, or I really just want to listen to this song. And what I find myself, especially with albums and bands that I'm really familiar with for many years sometimes, is that I'm like, I'm really in the mood for this record. And I'll listen to that record for a week, like over and over and over again, because it's so good, and I'll find new layers in it and new quirks, and I'll realize that the song that I kind of always used to think was bad or like that was okay or was kind of filler track is actually one of the great tracks on the album. And the next year I'll listen to that album really closely again and realize, oh no, I was right the first time. Music's like a dynamic and important thing. It's so fucking important, and music is primal as hell too. It's in us. Mm-hmm. Our want for rhythm and organization and all that kind of stuff, I think, happens is largely played out through music. So, which is why things that are off, 4/4 measure or whatever is often jarring for people. But I discovered in a lot of different ways. My rituals are. I'm so happy to hear that you are listening to more music. I think Spotify is a fantastic service. Shockingly good service. I would pay $50 a month for Spotify.
Yeah, you always say that.
It's incredible. The quality's great, and you can make the quality like really what you want it to be, and the selection is fantastic. Like there's only a few things that I really want that are missing, and they're slowly whittling it down. Like when they got Pink Floyd and the Beatles, I was like, yes, this was like half of the fucking equation for me. The only thing they're missing now is like
Taylor Swift.
I'd like to listen to Tool and I'd like to listen to De La Soul, and they're not there. And that's basically the only bands I can think of that I really give a fuck about.
This is the first moment I've thought of Tool in 20 years, is when you said that.
Yeah, Tool has. I mean, I'm not a huge Tool fan. I'm a Danny Carey fan. I love Danny Carey, but he was a fantastic drummer. But and what I like about Spotify too, so the Police are one of my favorite bands, right? I love the Police, and sometimes I'm in the mood for a record, so I'll put on Zenyatta Mandata or Synchronicity or something. But then sometimes I just want to listen to like, my own playlist of the Police, which is an option. And sometimes I just want to go to like the best of the Police and listen to the singles. And so like there's all those options there as well. It's such a far cry from how we grew up. I used to buy tapes. The first tape I ever bought was MC Hammer.
Nice.
Whoa.
And the first song I ever remember hearing was Wildest Dreams by Moody Blues, which is it's a well-known Moody Blues song, but well after they were popular.
Yeah. I
remember sitting in the back of my mom's Crown Victoria when they had just bought it. I was like 2 or 3 years old. I remember like, this song is awesome. And ever since then, I've just been infected with it. I used to buy so much music, dude, like a lot of tapes and then a ton of CDs. And I'm so glad we don't live in that world anymore, but I still want musicians to like get their money, which is why I'm like, Spotify should be and will be, I think, way more expensive than it should be.
Hopefully there'll be tiers, right, to kick it back to other people. Tim, what's your music ritual?
My ritual, it's kind of similar to Colin's to an extent, in that it's a very active experience. When I listen to music, I'm listening to music. That's it. I can't work while listening to music. That's so foreign to me, and it's not even to say that it's distracting. It's like that's not even right. Like music to me is the focus.
Yeah.
The idea of multitasking, doing something while music is playing, is just beyond me. I'm not even capable of it. Like I really like to just lay on my bed, put some headphones on, and listen to an album front to back. And that it's more than just listening to it. It's listening to it and then thinking about it after, and then listening to it again based on the thoughts that I had the first time, and like kind of like growing and experiencing it. And like I'm really weird when it comes to music and the way I do. I think ritual is actually a very apt thing to discuss for me, because my ritual with music is discovering an artist, and that usually comes from the internet somehow, it usually comes from another one of my loves. The internet being one of them, video games being another, things like that, right? Where to this day, I still go on message boards to find music. Like I read what people are talking about, what people like, what people don't like, and go from there and find people that have similar tastes to me. That leads to an artist I like. When I find the artist I like, then I'm like, all right, if I like them, people that like them, who do they like? And I kind of go from there. Once I find that artist, I will just go down the rabbit hole of, if there's a song I like, find the album I like, go from there. But I like to buy it, actually ripping the CD, that's the whole process to me. So that's part of the ritual, is actually physically ripping the CD. And I feel like there's something about getting intimately familiar with how many tracks are on this album. You know, naming it, like renaming all the files to make sure they're all named correctly. Like there's something about that learning process of understanding why tracks are ordered the way that they are, and like thinking of the music as really an art form and as something that has a lot of thought put into it instead of just on a song by song basis. You brought up the album art earlier and being attracted to album art and being like, oh, I'm sold. I think that's such a simple and brilliant thing, because if you're attracted to it, chances are somebody put a lot of thought into that. And more often than not, I appreciate albums as opposed to singles. And I think that people that have artwork that is thought out is a sign of a good album, or is at least a sign of an album that was thought of and conceived as an album.
Sure.
And if they put that much time into it and I enjoy them enough, I want to give them the time and respect to understand what they're trying to do with that piece of art, you know? And sometimes you don't get it. Sometimes you do. And I feel like that is the thing that's my ritual with the music. I feel like I would rather be intimately familiar with a few artists than just kind of familiar with a whole bunch of them.
Interesting.
And it's funny for me because I'm Mr. Millennial and I'm Mr. Downloading shit and whatever. And that's not to say I don't have thousands of songs on my computer, you know?
Yeah.
But I am a big fan of not using playlists. I like having all of my music on my phone, and I like curating it as I'm going, what I'm feeling like, looking through my, when I look at my iPhone, I go to my music tab or whatever, and I scroll, the way that I go from song to song is sort by album. So that I think says a lot about me, is I'm always looking for the album and bouncing back and forth that way. It's not by artist, it's not by song. And sometimes when I'm not feeling anything specific, I'll do shuffle, but then inevitably within 5 songs, I'll find something that leads me back to album and go from there. So
that's really cool, Tim.
Yeah, it's really weird, but I definitely, music's very special to me, and it's something that I make time for in my life more so than anything else, really, besides what I do in work and all that stuff that I love. Like, I make time for specific video games. You know, I make time for movies, but when albums are coming out, I make time for that. I really am like, I'm thinking about that stuff and thinking about the experience I'm going to have with certain albums in a way that is kind of creepy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? Sounds like Big Dog Kevin's about to bark. What you got for me?
You got me laughing. Being in the car with him while he listens to music fucking sucks.
Yeah.
He changes the song every 15 seconds.
Yeah.
He like wants
Till he
to
finds
hear,
the right one?
No. He wants to hear specific parts of the song, and then he's out.
I mean, so to be fair, that is a very different random situation. The car, specifically with Kevin, is just like, it's a whole disaster. But that's because car rides and the road trips, that's where the playlist comes into play, where I'm totally down with that.
Yeah.
But music, the album experience with other people is way too hard for me to even try to comprehend, because you can't share that experience with somebody else. Like the car ride is a single song world, and it is totally, you need to respect the other people in the car. I don't respect Kevin.
Oh.
So I've known him too long.
I know.
There's too much going on there. But usually with Kevin, I am showing him something in a song, which is why I'm trying to find specific parts.
Sure.
But if you ever notice, like, and this might be that FedEx moment where I like break the glass shattering with you. The most annoying thing for me on the plane is I'll be sitting there and I'm just like, if I am on shuffle, I'm just bam, 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 next song.
I see you all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like, I can imagine to the people next to me, it's infuriating to see all that shit going on.
They
But
probably shouldn't be looking at your phone.
they shouldn't be.
Bunch of dicks.
Yeah. Fuck them dicks.
So like broccoli, music. This shit's good.
This shit's good.
This topic was brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a landing page, a beautiful gallery, a professional blog, or an online store, it's all included with your Squarespace website. Jared, would you like to bust out a phone? Did you get a phone yet?
I do have my phone is busted. I have a busted phone.
Do you want to use mine to browse
So
the
the
internet?
phone I have an old beat up.
Sorry, I'm dealing with an event here. That's why I was on.
Things happen. That's all right. That's all right. But no, I do in fact carry a phone now, but it's ancient and old and grungy.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Squarespace.
All right, I'd like to hear about it.
Would you like to know why you should use it?
I'd love to know.
Number one, it's easy. Creating your website with Squarespace is a simple, intuitive process. You can add and arrange your content and features with the click of a mouse. It's also free for a custom domain. Squarespace makes adding a domain to your site simple. If you sign up for a year, you'll receive a custom domain for free for a year. Beautiful templates, design, a best-in-class online store with Squarespace award-winning templates, customizable settings, and more, all without a single plugin. They have seamless commerce tools, customer support all the time. I mean, it's 24/7, Jared. You can get somebody any time of the day if you need help.
So that's pretty groovy.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
For your website. Not that, because it's so easy to use, though, you would never need help from anybody. Don't worry about it. Okay?
But it's there if you want it.
But if you needed it, it would be there. But you're not gonna, because it's so easy and intuitive to use. And they got the seamless commerce tools we've been wondering about a lot. Anyways, start your free trial today at squarespace.com and enter the offer code Kinda Funny to save 10% off your first purchase. That's squarespace.com. Kinda Funny, all one word, for 10% off your first purchase.
Bam.
Tim Tame.
Yes.
What's the topic?
Bringing it home today. So a couple weeks ago, my topic was proposals and how happy proposals make me.
You proposed to Gia. You
Did not do
salty
it.
dog. I didn't even
do it.
hear.
No. So my friends proposed, and that was the spawning of all that topic and stuff. But that led me to being really excited about proposals in a way that I had been in a long time.
Sure.
Went down a rabbit hole of watching a whole bunch of proposal videos, which are one of my favorite things. Because again, like I said in that topic, it just makes me happy.
Of course.
Last night, I ended up doing even more of that. And that led to finding videos of like army people coming back.
Oh, sure.
And to their families.
yeah.
Or which then led to videos of deaf people hearing for the first time.
Yeah.
And just things like that. And now I'm not really sure what this topic is.
Sure.
But those videos make me feel a certain way that is so unique, but I love that it's the same feeling,
Sure.
It's this feeling of just happiness and joy for other people. Like it's just raw being happy for someone else,
Yeah.
and like you kind of feel that emotion through them. And I want to know, like, is there other situations that you guys can think of that are in that vein or whatever?
Yeah, you kind of bring it up, I guess. To your topic before we jump off, I guess, into that direction, because I thought we were going a different way with it when you were just talking. Is it reminds me of how spoiled we are now compared to, and stick with me, the movie Dogma. Because you remember in Dogma, the whole thing is that Ben and Matt Damon are angels grounded on Earth, right? And Ben's whole thing was that he was a watcher, and so he goes to the airport all the time to watch people get reunited and like see each other when they come off the plane and be like, have that moment of pure joy and happiness to see each other again. And how that obviously there was no 9/11 had happened, so you could walk up to the gates and just sit there and watch people get reunited that way. But also the fact of like, the internet wasn't in a place where, these moments we were sharing so much with everybody all the time that you would be able to just go and for hours watch these kind of things and then be like, well, what about this? Or what about a deaf person here? What about that? Like, it's such a weird thing of that used to be rare. You'd have to be at the airport for something else and then you'd see a couple reunited or whatever, a mom and son reunited, and you'd be like, oh, what a sweet moment. And now you just sit there and eat popcorn at your laptop and watch it.
Yeah. Well, another one that I was thinking about, you saying that reminded me of Reddit. Somewhere it was on the front page a couple weeks ago it was a GIF of some guy at a soccer game and like some little kid at a soccer game, and one of the players came by and like was walking, stopped, looked over at the kid, went up to him, gave him like a slap, and then walked off. And that kid like just blew up. And then that led to someone responding to some hockey player doing something similar, like walking over and giving him a stick, and then a bunch of basketball players and a bunch of the hockey stick.
I know.
It was just like, it's so crazy that like I just felt so good for those kids.
Yeah, you get it, because I think we all have those moments in our lives that you remember, right? One that got me choked up last night, 2 nights ago, was it was on Reddit as well, and it was a little boy had just finished his baseball game or whatever, and then went to the car, and I guess the dad had been pretending he forgot about his birthday or whatever, or couldn't afford the gift or whatever, and then I think he was pretending that he forgot about the birthday, and the kid was getting all sad about it or whatever, and like being all cold shoulder about it or whatever, and then he made him go to get his bag from the back of the car and open it up, and of course the bat was there, and the kid broke down, and then the dad broke down, and it's like one of those moments of like, this such a personal moment that clearly is going to leave such an impact on the child, let alone the dad. You know what I mean? And like you share it. There it is. You find it in 2 seconds. Good job, Kev. You want to put that in there?
I'm even looking for it.
I'm now
That's
I'm a big time
shit.
Redditor. I see everything ahead of time. I don't really see everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of stuff early. But I mean, like, there's a moment you share of like, I remember, when my parents hid my Christmas gifts or whatever, and like the one thing I really wanted I didn't get, and then coming back up the stairs when they sent me downstairs to get something stupid, you run into that gift. You're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And now you get to be a part of it and find it and see all that stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, YouTube and all that stuff, I think kind of in a much bigger way incentivizes people to think in that way.
Yeah.
For example, there was the Disneyland video of the girl there was a little girl, she was like probably 5 with little sister.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
the parents are like, told her that, oh, we're not going to school today. And she's like, oh, well. Like they're driving to school. Have you seen it? Do you know what I'm talking about, Colin?
I think so. I mean, I've seen videos like this.
So it's a family driving this girl, and they're like, oh, we're going to school. And then they're like, oh, we're not really going to school. She's like, what? Really? We're not going to school? It's like, no, guess where we're going? They're like, oh, we're going to Disneyland. And she just like bursts into tears, and the little sister's just like, the fuck's going on?
Yeah.
But I just love that. I just love the pure, it's just to make her happy. It's just so awesome that they capture that moment. And then they made a sequel video a couple of years later, and the girl's like, it's happening again. And it's so funny. Like, I just love that there's things that can make people that happy, and that those moments of happiness make other people happy. It's so cool.
It's infectious almost. I agree. Now, for me, I do not prowl the internet looking for these kinds of videos very often. So almost all of mine are things I've observed through real life. Is this contextually relevant or not? I want to make sure.
This is relevant.
Okay, good. So
the motion carries.
I used to when I was in Japan, I taught, and a lot of what I did was work as a kindergarten teacher. So a lot of tiny Japanese children used me as a jungle gym for like 3 years. It was pretty wonderful. I mean, to a lot of them in Japan, there are not very many people of my height. There are very few bald men. There are very few people with beards, and there are very few fat people. So to a group of Japanese 4-year-olds, I was the tallest, fattest, baldest, hairiest thing they had ever seen. I barely looked. I want to climb it. Yeah, exactly. That was the response. I barely looked human, and they would take you down. I mean, 30 Japanese kindergartners can take you down.
How many did it take to take you down?
It does not
30.
take a lot.
Shadow of the Colossus.
It is. It's exactly like that. They would they'd wrap around your legs, and then they just keep holding on, and then they grab your arm so you lose your balance, and then a couple of them inevitably would try to stick their fingers up your butt, which is a Japanese thing called kancho, where they try to stick your fingers in your butthole, which is kind
Japanese.
of fun. It's a very interesting cultural phenomenon. But yeah, they take you down, then jump on top of you. Anyway, kids having impromptu joy at a moment, particularly at a kid like Cookie Monster moment. Mm-hmm. You know how whenever Cookie Monster sees a cookie, it's like the first time he ever saw a cookie? And he's just like, cookie, nom, nom, nom. And he's just so happy. That's what those moments are like for kids. And being near that is infectious. If you come to mind for me immediately, anytime a kid goes off a diving board at a pool and screams like cannonball, there's just that look when they freeze in midair. And there's that grin from ear to ear, and they're about to land right next to their sister and just, and probably give her a concussion. But it's beautiful for that moment that it's happening. This is a wonderful moment. Again, in Japan, I remember I was standing at an ice cream counter, like in a restaurant, and I heard this little singing next to me. Matcha is Japanese green tea, and they have green tea ice cream there. I'm standing there, and I hear this little song, and I look down, and there's a tiny, probably 3-year-old girl just peeking over the ice cream counter, just getting barely. She's just going. He's got this green. She's going matcha, matcha, matcha cream, matcha, matcha, matcha cream. They're just singing it. Oh, because she's about to get ice cream, and she is singing the joy of the ice cream. And those kind of moments. I was in a waiting room at a courthouse of all things a few weeks ago. And I was playing Mega Man Legacy Collection, where you can play Colin Moriarty's level on my 3DS. This kid sitting next to me was kind of looking over and watching me play. and his mom was there, and so he kept looking over, and I just looked at her and I was like, is this okay? And she's like, yeah. So I handed it over. He had never played Mega Man. He's sitting there playing Mega Man 2. And at first he's trying to touch the touchscreen. Then he figures the controls out. Really little kid. But I watched him, and he ran forward and fell in a hole. And he ran forward and fell in a hole. Then I showed him how to jump, and he ran forward and jumped at the hole. But then he ran over and jumped over the hole. And then he jumped over the hole and ran into an enemy and died. And he kept restarting. I showed him how to, and they jumped over and shot the enemy. And then he moved forward and jumped over. And you watched him learning and getting far. And he just, that compulsive, bam, restart. And it was like looking through some kind of tachyon camera into my past and seeing that unabashed joy of discovery. This kid was discovering 2D platforming for the first time in his life, and he couldn't get enough. And we were in that room for...
I hear you, kid.
Yeah, it was great.
And he handed the 3DS set back and said, it's no Sonic.
No, his this joy came over his face. For like 2 hours, he was in there until it was time for he and his mom to leave. And it was wonderful to watch. Just those kinds of moments. And I also really like anywhere I am, something that just... If I see someone reading anywhere, of any age, in any context, I get happy. Watching people read, I'm just like, whatever you're doing right now is making you better. It's just inspiring. So those are the ones that come to mind for me, Tim.
There's an Instagram called Hot Dudes Reading. Highly recommend.
I have seen Hot Dudes
It's good.
Reading.
It's good.
Yeah, actually, I might be on.
Oh, yeah.
Hot Dudes Reading. That's right. Team Fat. Patent pending.
What comes to mind for me for some reason is sporting events, especially going to sporting events live. So, hockey games and football games specifically are amazing events to go to live, especially with the ups and downs of the team and depending on the stakes of the game. That's what's so fascinating. I love sports, and that's what's so fascinating about it is that in week 1 in the NFL, everyone is 0-0, right? 0-0, right?
Yeah.
No one, like everyone can win. You're not going to, but everyone can win. And then by the end of the season, the stakes are so high because people are trying to get into the playoffs, and then the playoff games are like fucking zany, man. I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget going to the Islanders Maple Leafs game in 2002 in the playoffs, the Sean Bates penalty shot game, which is a fucking famous hockey game that I just had, like famous not only in Islanders lore but in hockey lore that I happened to be at, and that place went off. I have never, ever, ever been in a scene like that in my life. I was like, I'll never forget it. It was awesome. It was a penalty. There was a penalty shot, and we won the game, and it was like fucking bedlam, dude. It was so awesome. I remember leaving the Nassau Coliseum on Long Island, and people were fucking going crazy in the parking lot and beeping their horns and just laying on their horns all the way down the Long Island Expressway. People were like going insane. And I was like, this is so cool. But I've also been in that arena when it's half full, and they're losing 6-0 in the second period, and people are just leaving, And I still say the most joy I get out of going to an NFL game or going to a Jets game is when we're winning and the games are going really great and we score a touchdown and this place. The fucking best. But when the Jets lose or they're playing terribly, that only happens once in the game in the very beginning. Right? But when you're winning...
There's been a lot of those Sundays.
And I've been to those kinds of games.
Yeah.
But when everyone's doing the Jets chant and everyone's like smiling in elation and then there's like 80,000 people doing that in unison and the team's playing great and they're winning and everyone's in a great mood, it's joyous. It's fucking awesome. The ups and downs of sports, especially when you are a fan of notoriously bad or typically bad teams like I am with football and hockey, you really remember those moments. Like I remember for some strange reason it was the game you couldn't go to because you got sick or whatever, but out of all the football games I've been to and Jets games I've been to, I remember that game really well. But it was a meaningless game. It was a Jets Colts game. It was one of Andrew Luck's first games and the Jets fucking destroyed them. And I remember specifically Tim Tebow fake punt run for like 25 yards. I'm like, what the fuck? And the place was just going nuts. The game was like totally meaningless in the grand scheme of things. We were like 6-10 that year or something like that. But I was like, that was so fun. And I remember that moment. I'll always remember that moment. And I remember those moments going to Yankee games specifically with my dad when the Yankees were bad. And then when because the Yankees were bad when I was like a young kid. And then when they were good and how different that was. I also remember being on enemy territory. I remember watching the way other fan bases celebrate and the way other fan bases get into games or the way they lose. I've been to Yankee Red Sox games at Fenway Park. It's a very hostile place for a Yankee fan, and a very, very hostile place for a Yankee fan. And I've seen the Yankees destroy the Red Sox there, and I've seen the Yankees get killed there, and the elation and the bedlam that happens there. And I've been to Patriots Jets games in New England, much nicer fan base than the Red Sox fan base, but a lot of crossover, obviously. And the way they celebrate, I like going to those different. I like everyone's different traditions. I like the 12th man in the Seattle. I like our Jets chant. I like the Eagles song. I like the Bears song. Like all these different things that everyone has and how it brings them joy. And it's a tradition and it's a ritual and it's been going on for some of these teams for 60 or 80 years. It's pretty cool. You know?
I mean, what you're talking about is like the grand scale thing of the reunion of people, right? It's a shared experience between human beings, and that is something special to be in those arenas and have everyone on the same page as far as what's happening. And those are some of the most not even necessarily in the arena, because I the two that jump to my mind, right, are at Mizzou. Every time Kansas came through for basketball, they beat the shit out of us, or beat us, usually on some heartbreaking 3-pointer thing at the end or whatever. In my senior year, my final game as an Antler, we're all there in the dresses with our hair and mohawks, because that's what you do when Kansas comes to town. And I remember 2 minutes in when it looked like we were gonna win, and it started to set in. This is my final time being an Antler, and I started tearing up. And I was like, oh no. And then when we finally won, the first time in 4 years I ever saw Mizzou beat Kansas in person, and everyone rushed to the floor, and not the Antlers, because we're trying to make a point that we're not that bad. And I just burst into tears and turned around and hugged my other graduating senior, Jason, and he just held me while I weeped. I weeped. And then the other one being when in Missouri as well, but after college, watching the Bears advance to the Super Bowl and popping champagne and crying then and calling all my friends in Chicago to talk about it. Can you fucking believe this is happening finally? Because it's been forever. Our entire lives, they've been terrible. Our entire cognizant lives.
Yeah, it's funny with sports, whether collegiate or professional, or even the sports we played as a kid. I have a lot of memories of playing hockey, ups and downs, really bad moments and really good moments. It's funny, Tim actually bore witness to one of the strange sporting moments of my life, and is the only person that saw it, which was when the Islanders advanced in the playoffs for the first time since I was 8. So they got to the second round of the playoffs. I actually started hysterically crying.
Oh wow!
I couldn't help it. I was overcome with emotion, with joy, and couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it.
That's kind of the topic that I was really trying to get at, is the fact that so was I. Just having you next to me, I don't care about hockey at all, but I cared that you were so happy about this thing. And that's so crazy, and it's infectious, Yeah. I understand, because so many of my friends, my friend James is the biggest SF Giants fan in the fucking world. And knowing him, seeing him be a fan for so long, and then for them to win, it was just crazy. It's I felt this celebration within myself for him, just seeing him that happy was so crazy. And going back to it, video games do that to me so much. Thinking about the Twilight Princess reveal, when they first announced it, there's the video that, if you haven't seen this, YouTube right now, Twilight Princess reaction. It's every couple months I'll go back and watch that just to for that feeling of wishing I was in that room, but yet feeling I was in that room anyways. People were so excited that shit happened. And there's other things like the Street Fighter, the Justin Wong versus Daigo match where, the moment happened, and it's just man, I don't understand what's happening, but I'm overcome with emotion from all of this. And what's really funny, to get super meta with it, watching my reaction to Crash Bandicoot makes me happy about me being happy, But there's just something about
I
know how pure that was. I know how
you weren't doing it for effect. The girl crying when she hears for the first time, or the child when they put the glasses on and she sees for the first time. It's not. There's no bullshitting around about it.
Yeah, and I think that there's something really powerful about it, and I wonder if there's a name for that. But whatever it is, I think it's
powerful emotion time.
It's a beautiful thing.
Euphoria.
Euphoria. Maybe it is.
That's good.
But it's so interesting to me that it results in tears so often,
Yeah.
It results in just this your body needs to react in some way, right? Yeah. You can see if you look in the video, I felt like I was about to cry during the Crash Bandicoot thing.
Well, I mean, what's the line between laughter and tears? They're both signals from our body they're telling something is wrong, something is different, something is uncanny in this moment, something exceptional and extraordinary and alarming is happening. Laughter and tears are both the responses we have to those things. I think it's utterly appropriate that we allow ourselves to be overcome by wonder or beauty or euphoria, the word used there. I think it's one of the best things about being human. If we didn't have those moments to look forward to, why would we bother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table, each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny, where you get the shows early, get a whole bunch of exclusive perks, and get some goodies. If you have no bucks to toss our way there, head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where you get the show topic by topic, day by day, until we post the entire thing as one big video and MP3 the following Friday. Of course, while you're on that patreon.com site, go over and check out patreon.com/JaredPetty. Your new podcast is started up now.
Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate that. Thank you for having me on.
No
it was
problem.
an honor to be here. You guys have been great
thank you so much for coming. Remember, it's pocketsfullofsoup.com. Yeah, okay,
Pockets Full of Soup. That's the name of the show.
Got it. And it's up now. You can get it for free if you don't want to give him money.
Yeah.
You should probably give him money if you got it. I'm going to give him money.
Support this man.
Until next time. It's been our pleasure to serve you.